legend of Luka continuing to be written.
The future's bright, man, for the league. These dudes are so talented. It's going to be a fun game.
Zion and the Pelicans head to Big D to face Luka and the Mavs at 9:30 Eastern tonight. That'll be on ESPN in a match between the reigning Rookie of the Year and potential Rookie of the Year. Max, moving forward, who are you taking, Zion or Luka?
Not an easy answer, but I'm going to take Zion. And the reason I'm going to take Zion is because Luka can still get better. He can shoot it better, and I anticipate he will. And he can play better defense, and I anticipate he will. But in terms of the basic style of his game, it's going to remain more or less the same. It'll be a little better version of this. Zion is already not just a regular all-star caliber player so far. He's like an all-star plus. He's 19, 2 years younger, a year and a half younger, and he doesn't really have a game yet. He hasn't even really developed his game yet. So I think about superstars, like the all-time greats, in two different categories. The kind of guys who did it with IQ, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. Not that they also didn't have stuff, size and difference, but so does Luka have some size. And then I think about the physical freaks. Jordan was a physical freak. People overlook that now. He was a 48-inch vert. He was physically different than everyone. Shaq was a physical freak, just different. Those guys, to me, have even more upside than the Magics and Birds because of the physical dominance of their game. And LeBron showed you what that could be. LeBron was a physical freak who already came in with the game, but further developed it. Not that Zion will be just like LeBron, but he has room to grow, a lot of room. He's averaging 24 points now with a lot of room to grow as a teenager. I will take that upside over Luka, whose game is already very polished and already, to me, more or less what it'll be.
I disagree with you. And the reason why I disagree with you, as much as I love me some Zion Williamson, is number one, we just had a segment about the health of Zion Williamson. Now, he needs to sit down because he's walking around with 280, okay? That's number one. Number two, as much and as big time as Zion Williamson is, I got news for you. Luka's large, too. He is fast and rapidly becoming a global icon. Not to mention the fact that he's averaging over 28 a game. Not to mention the fact that this is a brother that can shoot. He pulls up deep. And he's a point guard that has the ball in his hands. And so because of the position that he plays, the responsibility that Rick Carlisle has placed on his shoulders, the way he's able to dictate the tempo, the pace of a game, the fact that he himself can control when he takes over, because, again, he has the ball in his hands, whereas Zion, in most instances, is relying on somebody to give him that basketball, even though in today's day and age with the open court, obviously, he still has the ball in his hands. I'm just thinking about what Luka could do. And, yeah, he might have arrived and he might be what he is, but what he is pretty damn special. And this is a guard-oriented game, this NBA game. I'm going with the dude that's got the ball in his hands pretty much all the damn time. That's Luka Doncic.
I've said Luka multiple times. I don't even have to think about it. I think Luka, even if he were to sustain some kind of injury, when you watch him play, he's never in a rush. Nobody can speed him up. He uses his size and his frame to get you to where he wants to be. And his vision ultimately is a game changer. I mean, not just the 25-plus points, Stephen A., but the 8, 9 assists per game. He makes the game so much easier for everybody. So I say that thinking about if Zion were to have some kind of injury again where he wouldn't be able to play above the rim, would Zion Williamson be the same? Right? I think that's a major concern. I think if Luka had some kind of injury, he can still back you down. He can still get you to the post. He can still see over the top. He can still look, even with one leg, I can still get you involved in the P&R. I understand how to play. I can still be extremely effective off that. So I just think Luka, when you see him in Mexico, when you see him talk Spanish to everybody, international flair, international appeal, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Dallas, Mark Cuban.
And he's a man.
He's a man.
Luka's a gangster.
But he's been
comes
playing
in like a
man.
boss.
He's been playing like a man since he's been 13
I
years
can't
old.
argue against the injury factor. I can't argue against that. What I'm thinking about is more like I think of Magic and Bird and guys like that. Then I think of the freaks. It's like Wilt Chamberlain, Shaquille O'Neal. You could put LeBron in that category too. there's just, like, at their best, at their apex, there's no answer for them. Zion Williamson has a chance to be the kind of player where you just, what can you do? You just got to give it up. Be like, all right, he's physically too much for everybody. And he's doing this without a shot.
I have a question when we're comparing these two. Zion's path playing college ball versus Luka. You talk about 13 years old, moves out of the house, playing pro all through Europe. Do you think Luka would be the player he is now if he hadn't taken that path?
No.
Do you think that'll become a trend?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a great topic because I kind of see college basketball dying. I see a lot of kids going overseas to play. You see the NBA reinvesting into the G League again. You have some kids like James Wiseman just working out throughout the course of the year, even though his situation with college basketball went that way. But like, I do think that is a major advantage. Like, coming from a place like Duke, going to the NBA was a drastically different world.
Yeah.
Like, grown men on your team, guys went home to their families.
Playing against kids versus playing against men.
And the game was drastically different.
And with college basketball, it's sad to say, because Coach K addressed this recently and what have you, and he's right about that. The fact of the matter is, outside of March Madness, we don't give a damn about college basketball. And I think it's in large part due to the exploitive nature of the NCAA, the fact that you see options for these guys, the G League elevating in the NBA, playing overseas in Europe and what have you, knowing that you can come into the NBA at age 19 if you're right here in America, if you're Europe, whenever you can get over here. The bottom line is that there are too many better options, and the NCAA is so rigid in doing what it can to facilitate better movement for the players. They don't have to be bothered with it.
That structure might help certain players, but Luka is the way he is because that's the way. Like, not everyone could thrive under the conditions he did,
his dad was
but
a player
he could
as well,
do it.
growing up in Eastern Europe. I was just curious now, if you had a son right now, and that's your goal, to get him to the NBA, which path you think you would go?
The path of the most exposure. So, like, do you know Udoka Azubuike? No, nobody here does, right? He's probably the best player for the team that could win the championship for Kansas right now. But you all know LaMelo Ball, right? LaMelo just played basketball over in Australia.
But it's also style too. Style does matter. Like, if you are, if you've got an aerial assault that attracts attention, and you go to the University of North Carolina or Duke, you're going to get notoriety. But that's doing a favor for the NCAA. The NCAA does these kids no favors in terms of the notoriety and the recognition. They do nothing for them.
Why is exposure important? Like, if you got the goods, then why early exposure? Like, you know what I mean? If you're built to last, who cares about the early exposure?
I just think people are looking at the business of basketball drastically different. I think people are going to the business of basketball saying, how can I start building my brand? Which is why you have overtime, which is why you have
too much money
real,
too soon.
Which is
when
why
all
you have
things
kids
are equal, what's going to sway you?
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's a kid out there named Mikey Williams, right?
Yeah.
Mikey Williams has 1.4 million Instagram followers. And like, he's creating a brand. Imani Bates, another kid in high school, creating a brand. So it gets to a certain point. Why do you go to college? Well, because I want to be a part of that brand of what that college can do for me, where now I don't need that as much anymore.
So I was just arguing Zion because, like, guys like Shaq and Will, at their very best, were unstoppable, right? But then I mentioned Bird and Magic on the other hand. What about a guy like Tim Duncan, who's in the Bird Magic category? Did it with the big fundamental. Place like San Antonio, not a lot of sizzle, didn't have big sneaker contracts, everything, but made plenty of money. Like, Tim Duncan be very rich and hold his whole family for the rest of his life, and is one of the all-time greats, and seems happy to me. Is Tim Duncan that kind of style of player not the model for anyone anymore?
I think it's changing, because I think within that model, what do you have to do? You have to be patient. Who's patient these days? I can get everything right now.
Yeah.
That's what kids want.
It just feels like that Luka path is such a competitive advantage. I don't know longevity-wise, because you've been playing that kind of basketball for so many years, but just having that kind of experience against grown men.
You also can't ask a kid to be but so patient when you, as an entity, go about the business of monetizing somebody else's brand,
the NCAA,
and capitalizing off of them the second you get an opportunity to. But they're supposed to wait.
Totally.
You can't sell that.
Look at what we talked about with the Niners earlier. Let's get Tom Brady for a year. Jimmy Garoppolo, you're out. That was a real possibility.
Squad, but Duke basketball, look how much their IG page has gone up since they had Zion Williamson there. It's like they're over 1 million.
Yeah.
They weren't even close to 1 million before they had Zion.
Yeah.
So that's how it works.
Yeah, no question. All right, thank you, Jay. Still to come, what did the Sixers coach Brett Brown say about Embiid-Simmons duo that has Stephen A. ready to react? Don't go anywhere. First take.
Don't miss more great debate on Thursday.